All right, Barbie. Okay. We're on 10.1. Cost rating, benefits, transportation, child care support for councilors and committee members.
That's an interesting read.
Yeah, so this report resulted from an initiative prompted by our EDI advisory committee, which came forward with some recommendation aimed at encouraging more diverse candidates to run for municipal election. The council at the time, so this was July 11th council meeting, council passed a motion looking for some more information, a staff report to be brought back on the costs associated with providing healthcare benefits, transportation support, and child care support for council and committee members. So this work aligns with our efforts in equity, diversity, and inclusion. By considering these options for support for council and committee members, we are looking at removing barriers and encouraging more diverse representation around the council table. So, first thing in the report is an overview of current compensation and eligible expenses for councilors and committee members. So, attached to the report are 3 attachments. Attachment 1 outlines the remuneration of the warden, deputy warden, and councilors. In May, just this past May, council did approve an increase in the base salaries, which will take effect with the newly elected council in October. And annually, council does consider cost of living increase as well. All councilors, including the warden and deputy warden, are reimbursed for mileage, as well as committee members too. And policy P58, which outlines the remuneration of committee members. And then attachment 3 is the eligible expenses for councilor and committee members and staff, which includes transportation costs as an eligible expense as well. So the first item was healthcare benefits. These are the benefits that are provided right now to employees with the annual share costs noted for each one. And based on these current benefit rates, the total annual municipal share of costs to provide these to municipal councilors would be $23,718 for the year. So that's an annual cost to the municipality.
An annual cost?
Yes.
So 4 years.
Each year it would be around that, so it would be based on the current rates.
So that rates, that would be for each 9, so times 7 or?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and the council would have the option to opt out if they have a spouse or with a better plan or.
Yeah, so it's not times 7, it's $23,000.
So it's
for all of council for 1 year, so
If
for
all
a
seven-
4-year term, it would be $23,718.
if all 7,
Roughly times 8.
if all 7 took it out.
If all 7.
Yeah.
So,
And that's based on our current understanding of council.
so what portion does the employee pay and the employer pay? Or is that fully
That's
funded by the
This is the
employer?
municipal cost.
Yeah.
That's municipal
Not
cost.
our cost.
Municipal.
So
It doesn't include your own cost.
it doesn't include what our portion would be.
Correct. Is it 50-50?
Yeah, that's, I guess, a question as well.
It's 50-50.
So is this based on what model? Are these all family plan costs or?
Tim provided the cost and he's on vacation. I think what he did was looked at the current distribution of council and sort of said that person would probably be family, this one would be single. I think that's what he tried to do, but I'm guessing that it's all family because I think everybody around the table would probably do family for it. So, but I would have to get that confirmed with Tim. I don't have that.
No,
Did he put that in his report? Yeah. He just gave us the
Yeah,
cost.
and again, if we're looking at expanding the diversity, it's why we're looking at the child care expenses too. So not everyone would be, taking part of that if they have kids, right? So it's just expanding that envelope to look
This
at.
is just the healthcare.
No, exactly. That's health, transportation, child care, but I'm using the analogy that we could also say that around childcare because, but again, it's around, and again, I have to believe in this in terms of seeing the exercise of the EDI committee and sitting at that table, and that's where this originated in terms of expanding the kind of slate of individuals from all of our communities, hopefully that will one step up. So, yeah.
Okay, so that's the healthcare piece.
That's the healthcare piece. The transportation support piece is a little easier in the sense that we already allow transportation as an eligible expense. So we, as staff, are recommending that we promote that to candidates who are interested in running for election, as well as committee members.
We already paid that.
Yes, and also promote Chester Community Wheels, which their mandate is to provide transportation for those individuals who may have a barrier, do not have a reliable personal vehicle, or only have one vehicle. It's a pay what you can model, so we can just encourage the active use of that service that we also support as a municipality.
Yeah.
We did outline an option 2, which is paying for dedicated service, but it didn't make sense with those other 2 options that we have available.
And it would be, to me, makes sense if they didn't have a vehicle and they needed transportation, they call Community Wheels, and that is their expense, similar to our mileage. So that there, I think, would even out.
Yeah, because the dedicated service, the amount there blew me away, right?
But just call a taxi.
But Sherbrooke, like the example of the return trip, compared to my own, because I'm the farthest out, if you will. I think of any councillor ever that's sat on council, I think, in the history of council, because I'm at Kings County line. So my kilometers are 87.6 return, or 43.8 one way. And my, and my mileage on my public way, because it's all, you can look at it. For a return trip for me, 87.6 kilometers return is $51.14 right now. So $170 to get you Sherbrooke looking at this.
But I think, maybe I'm wrong, but talking about Community Wheels in the EDI committee, I think a lot of it's based on transporting someone that's disabled, perhaps in a wheelchair. Is that what you're looking at?
No, it's not necessarily. So maybe for households that perhaps can't afford a 2-vehicle purchase, or they don't have a vehicle at all.
Okay.
But also people who cannot drive for other reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all inclusive.
Anyway, it's an option.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So the child care one is a little more complicated in terms of the analysis done here. So child care, the reasoning for bringing that forward as a potential option for council to consider is that the cost for getting child care can be a deterrent when it comes to certain members of the community considering running. And as most primary caregivers of children are women, it can disproportionately impact women and their ability to participate in local politics. So staff have put forward, I think it's 3 options here. Staff recommend option 1A. So we recommend broadening it to dependent care, which recognizes the diverse needs for individuals who may not be childcare, it may be for other reasons. It could be an elderly person or someone with a disability. There's also an option so with the first one, the stipend, it's reducing administrative burden, it's reducing bureaucratic burden in terms of paperwork for the individual to apply and qualify for this. The eligibility we have outlined in the policy piece would be counselors and committee members with dependents requiring care, including children up to 12 years of age, elderly dependents or dependents with disabilities. The stipend amount here, which is $41.60 a year, it's based on minimum wage, so there's a calculation in option 3 that outlines the minimum wage right now, so that's where that number comes from. And in here it says, to ensure a net pay of $80 a week, that we have a gross amount that's included. So that's to account for the realities of paying for babysitters, for example. This is based on the calculation done on a per meeting. So the number of meetings that counselors may be required to attend in a year, it can range from anywhere from 10 to 30. So this is based on the conservative amount, so 30 meetings is the approximate guess, which is what comes into this calculation. Eligible expenses would be in-home care, daycare centers, elder care facilities, or other dependent care services necessary for attending the official meetings. And then this policy shall not cover the cost for care provided by a spouse or partner, a former spouse or partner with custody rights, or a relative residing in the household. And that policy statement is reflected in all of the options presented for council's consideration. So the only documentation that we have in this option is to submit an initial application form in order to demonstrate eligibility to participate in this option. And that'd be at the beginning of the term of their council, and then they would be set for their term of their council.
We provide that service to our own employees.
No. The option 2 is the expense claim model with no limits on hourly rate or an annual allotment. So this would just be claiming, submitting an expense, which may or may not be challenging when it comes to using babysitters, but this is an option as well. And then we would have to ensure they're reasonable and aligned with local market rates for service. Option 3 is an expense claim, but capping it at an hourly rate and requiring more documentation and then like a signed affidavit from the individual or the company providing the care. And that one would include a calculation for the number of hours required. So it depends on how long the meeting goes, and it would account for up to an hour each way for getting to and from the meeting. So we have outlined an approximate cost, which I mentioned in option 1, so that is outlined after the option 3 scenario. So we've also included a jurisdictional scan of childcare supports offered elsewhere as attachment 4 for council's information. So we are looking for motion today from council on whether or not they would like to support the recommendation from staff, which is, I've broken it out into 3 different motions. 1 is approve the addition of healthcare benefits for councillors. 2, which is direct staff to promote existing community wheel service and the transportation expense policy to candidates and committee members. And then 3 is option 1 and 1A, which is broadening it to dependent care, which is the stipend version to be implemented for eligible councillors and committee members.
Well, the healthcare and transportation ones don't seem complicated.
I just know that we've changed our council meetings to the evening, and therefore you really could hold down a full-time job during the day. And that was the big issue, that people can't get here to participate in council meetings because it was during the day. So by moving them to an evening, any people that apply for council can work full-time during the day. So I don't see that this isn't as critical as maybe it was before when we're here during the day and people would have to be away from work.
No, transportation, I mean, I get that, we pay it anyway, so.
And that,
So
I'm
broadening
in
it
favor of that,
to community
yes.
wheels is not an issue. Healthcare, we provide it to staff. I mean, if you don't want to, you gotta pay 50% yourself, so if you choose to, you can, but.
You don't have to.
You don't have
It's
to.
not mandatory, no.
No,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
But the child care piece, I mean, we don't even provide it for our own staff. And hardly anybody in Canada provides it to councillors, so that just seems a bit,
In the healthcare one,
yeah.
because people don't get healthcare. It's not-
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the healthcare and the transportation piece, but I will not support the child care piece because it's just, we don't even do it for the people who work for us.
Yeah, I understand the EDI, and you want to try to involve everybody you can, but I mean, that's like trying to buy an insurance policy for a meteor hitting you in the sky. You can't cover everything. But I think
The choices you make.
these two, the number 1 and 2, yes, I do agree with. The third one, not so much, but with the child care. As I say, we don't offer it to our own staff, and I don't think, and to me, moving meetings to the night, doing all this other stuff, I mean, it's way, way further than we had been 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Or 3 months ago. So I think this is a good step.
Yeah.
And we're offering $5,000 more a year, so that should attract a few.
I just agree with some of the comments. I guess when I did support the increase in salary for councillors, for new councillors, not for us. But if I had known all this was coming, I may not have supported that, because I think the $5,000 addition is for what, how amount of time do we spend as a councillor? We have a part-time job, it's not a full-time job. And by moving the meeting to the evening, you're right, Sharon, you can work a full-time job and still be a counselor and work full-time. And there is daycare for $10 daycare now within Beijing.
It's got to be cheaper.
And I think we're, in my opinion anyway, we're paid with the increase, we're well paid for a part-time job, and I believe that. And I actually talked about some of these additions to some of my residents, because in my mind, that they're not needed. I think they've been put in for a council job, they need to represent the community. I think we're paid well enough, and I did mention some of these things in conversation that we're going to talk about today, and I can tell you that people in my community certainly weren't supportive of them.
Well, the taxpayers are paying for it.
They're paying for it, and we're $30-some thousand a year to be a counselor. I think we're being paid enough for our job, so I won't be supporting the travel one, and if people want health care, I'm in on that, but as far as travel, no, I won't support it.
Yeah, Gina?
First off, thank you, Aaron and Emily Key. Lot of work. So thank you, actually. So at the next meeting, I'm sure that Councilor Pino and I and Jennifer and others will be sharing just again the research that was done, the report that came back, and as well, thank you for the, for again, the healthy and hearty dialogue here and the discussion around it. I'm in support of all three. Certainly have been from the time that we started the discussions at the EDI committee. And when I looked at the jurisdictional scan around the other municipal units, again, across the spectrum of where we kind of looked, or the staff looked in Surrey, I think it's the direction to go. I really do. I listen, I'm tuned in enough with the organizations, especially around, status of women in terms of running for elected positions, whether it be municipal, provincial, school boards when they existed, and so on. So I'm happy that very happy that we've done the evening meetings. I'm happy that we're at least looking positively. We haven't made a motion yet, but the transportation and the health care benefits. But I'm also, my appetite is around the child care piece too. I just think, again, it goes back to the gist of the reasoning around the discussion coming out of EDI and upping the ante in terms of putting it out there for a healthy step forward of so many individuals that might be held back to not put their name forward. And I know I said it before, so I guess I've said it enough.
I'll just say a couple of things. The purpose of this was to try to break down barriers to those that may have them. And if you look at the makeup of our council, or any of the councils that predated us, I think you would find that there have been no young people. And, obviously young people, that's usually in the demographic where you have children, and that to me represents a barrier. I would benefit, if I were running, I would benefit in no way. I have no children that I know of that I would require this, but there may be others that may utilize this, and I can see how this could benefit them if they were contemplating how they could do this, if they were a single person and they wanted to participate. This would probably be the only vehicle by which they would be able to do it. We look at this as if it were a cost to the taxpayer of so many dollars times 7, but realistically, it may be one person sometimes. That's the reality of what this policy would mean. So putting this framing it as if it's this, whatever, 5,000 or whatever it was in the report there, times 7, times 4 years, that's not actually what it is. It's maybe we might encourage that one person that wouldn't have thought about it to run, and if they're successful, then that's a victory of this policy. That's all I have to say about this.
Anyone else on from
I'm
Gary?
not going to repeat all the arguments except to say I agree with the deputy warden For that reason, I would accept the transportation and healthcare piece. I won't support the others.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion? Let's separate them out with the healthcare and the transportation. So do we support the recommendation?
Yeah, I'll move that we do.
Move seconded. Discussion.
What's the motion?
What's the motion?
To support the recommendation of
For healthcare, yeah.
Approve, you wanted to do them all three separate?
No, healthcare and transportation all together.
Yeah.
We're support, the motion is to support the recommendation, right?
And the recommendation is basically Community Wheels.
Yes, the one that they recommended.
And the recommendation.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
We got top of second.
Sorry.
All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Now,
So a motion to consider the option for childcare.
It also has included in that would be the dependents and the elderly.
Yes, sorry.
So it's not just child.
Sorry, not just childcare, you're right, thank you for that.
yeah, we have a seconder for that motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated. Thank you for your report. Yep. Okay, so, strategic priorities update.
Yeah, so, I provided, the updated chart since, the first quarter is over. We're actually a little late getting this to you, but, first quarter is over. We're, into our second quarter. There were a number of, items that we didn't get to in the first quarter, to bring back to council. So I also provided an update of, when we're proposing that those items would come back to council and some notes on where they currently are. And then we've just added some additional items. Those are so anything that's in red and has been crossed out are the items that we did not get to, and we're removing them from the first quarter and putting them somewhere else. In the purple are the items, those red items that have been moved somewhere else. Or a purple item that's been crossed out that may have been moved somewhere else. And the blue items that you see, if you've got the colored version, are the ones that either have been added since this was initially provided to you back in February.
The odd thing.
Yeah, there are a few things that were added. So I won't go through each item individually, but if there are specific ones that you would like to discuss or would like more information on, or if there's anything missing, or you would like to change priority on some of these items, willing to entertain that discussion now.
A couple of months left to finish it off.
Trying to.
Actually, so I think as soon as I have two, and the first one I just answered myself. So I was wondering where the short-term licensing bylaw that we discussed earlier was coming, but I see it now in column 4, right in the middle.
Yeah.
Page 2, yeah, first page. So I just saw that. And the second thing I would have would be in the Q3, first page as well, on the sheet, down a little bit on the screen. We have sidewalks, AT Solutions, Chester Commons Road to Highway 3 design.
Yeah, and I think I forgot New Ross in
You
there.
did.
This New Ross is also in there.
Yeah.
You did, thank you very much.
There you go, now back.
Good pickup.
Yeah, it is. It's just, that was just a typo. It is.
I'm sure Eric is going to jump in on that.
Okay, we all good?
It's actually in the list too, Tina. The list is provided after the chart.
Okay.
It does say sidewalk, AT Solutions, New Ross, construction for the first, of the first phase will happen in the third quarter, and then the design for the second phase to the exhibition grounds is underway.
And we just added a whole bunch of wells and
I know.
milk. Eric? Yeah.
Help me find the piece on signage in here.
On signage, highway, the uniform signage?
7, 8.
Uniform signage is,
After review of the product and options for rollout of
there you go.
program, waiting for information on cost and options and modifications. I can't tell you what page it is on.
It is the top, so if you're looking at the colored chart, it's the top item in Q2, right after municipal election. Uniform signage program, options report for expansion of the uniform sign program to all Highway 103 exits And lessons learned, the plan is to bring that back in September
So that's next
as a
month.
report, yeah.
So has any consultation taken place yet?
No, we need direction from council before we go and do consultation. We need direction on, there's a whole bunch of issues that are still outstanding from the pilot program that we need council to understand and have a conversation about before we go out to the public and talk about a rollout of a broader program. So that's what's gonna happen in September. And then if council chooses that they want to do consultations before we do a rollout, but I think you need to have an understanding of what changes are necessary and what it means and what were the issues.
Yeah, we need that information for sure, to see how successful it was.
Anything else?
Or not.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Just, our growth plan is currently scheduled to be undertaken in Q4. I feel like we may want to think about pulling that as far forward as possible, just because in around exit 6, there is a tremendous amount of commercial, heavy-duty commercial activity currently being planned. And I would say that we are completely ill-equipped to deal with it as a municipality about what is going to happen to Hubbard's. And, you know, us just kicking the ball down the road it's going to be bad.
So what, say that again at first, there's gonna be a water line.
Well, we have now a twin highway that's landing everybody from HRM at exit 6, and there's
gonna be a water development?
they're planning a lot of heavy commercial activity currently at exit 6, and we have no plan for infrastructure, sidewalks, nothing. Like, it's just like, it's not gonna happen, but it's happening. And we have no strategy, nothing, just putting our heads in the dirt.
Get some inside information.
Yes.
Okay.
I just don't know if we have the capacity to get it done.
Yeah, so there's two components to it. One is portions of the growth plan would address that. And the other one is that in and I thought it was Q4, but it's Q3, we're looking at the wastewater system for Hubbard's and Sim settlement for options and next steps, which will probably include the need for a servicing study. So that was intended to go in Q3. If that's something that council wanted to pull forward, you know, Q2 is coming up quickly, so I don't, by the end of September, we can talk to staff and see if that's possible, if that was something council wanted to move forward quicker on. Just some
Well,
options
if
on
we
that.
have the capacity to do it, sure. I know that we have an awful
It
lot of
would
stuff.
probably mean we would have to, and then that's where I would have to have the conversations with staff of what
Why do you call that?
would we pull out, what would need to shift, if anything.
Yeah. So we want to take a look at that?
I wanted to 2.5 years ago.
Okay, so let's do it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we're on to South Shore Hospice, palliative care. They aren't really specific on what they want, so I'm wondering if we just don't want to get Chad or somebody to have a discussion with them to see if there's a specific grant they want to apply for or aren't aware of, or if they actually want to come in and do a presentation.
Presentation, yes.
Yeah. Better bring them in then.
Yeah.
Okay. Peggy Wilson, we have dealt with that matter?
Yeah.
Community Development Recreation, new private road name, Sylvia.
This one is in Martins Point. The road name is Anchor's Rest Lane. It's unique in Nova Scotia, and we have no objections from the fire department or public works.
Have you got any objections there, Mel?
Sir. I'll put the motion forward that we approve the proposed name of Anchor's
Rest Lane.
Anchor's Rest.
You good?
Lane.
Yeah.
Lane.
Anchor's Way. Isn't it Anchor's Way? No, sorry.
No, Anchor's Rest Lane.
Anchor's Rest Lane. I'm looking at the wrong page. That's my motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
Love those nautical names.
You usually have the simplest things for us to deal with. But I gotta see you Monday for some other stuff that's, not so simple. Okay, information report, Hemlock Woolly. Summer recreation, oh yes, okay.
I brought some recruits with me today. So just by way of introduction, some of you may know, but this is Will and Georgia, our summer recreation students, and so they've been with us for a few years, so they're probably familiar faces. And as we kind of pulled them out of the field, they're doing a fantastic job this summer with our recreation programs for our youth. And anyway, we pulled them in to be part of this presentation. They did a little bit of work a few weeks ago, kind of before we started into the direct program for youth. So they'll have a part in this presentation shortly.
Okay.
So Hemlock Woolly Adelgid. So we'll call it kind of the bug or HWA going forward, because most people stumble over the name.
You know what I was talking about.
Yeah. So this presentation very much is based on presentation from the town of Bridgewater. The town of Bridgewater is very heavy into some programming related to HWA, and so a lot of the information comes for credit for the good work that they're doing. And I think one of the things just on the surface from conversations that I've been involved with, that this is a concern that is kind of across the board, and people are more than willing to kind of share information on what they're doing and partner, because our forests are connected, and people have lots of concern about it, so people are willing to share that information. So I just want to kind of start with that. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on kind of the history. Essentially, this is a bug that's an invasive species. It's been around for a while, but it's making its way through the province, and as you can tell, it has a pretty significant impact on our hemlock forest, and after a relatively short period of time, so 4 to 15 years of the bug, you'll have a stand of dead trees, which is something that most people are not real interested in seeing as far as a landscape if there's a high population of hemlock trees. So why is it a threat? So just a list of kind of things that are fairly obvious. So it's not a native species, so it was imported into the province, so that's obviously problematic. It is spreading fairly quickly across the province. I don't know the exact history of which country it would have originated from. Definitely kind of on the biology side of things, and I'm not certain about that, but it's definitely not native to Canada for sure. Yeah, so it can obviously, as I mentioned, it can kill hemlock after 4 to 10 years, so there's a 90-95% chance of that happening. It's difficult to control. The dead hemlocks, obviously, if you have a huge stand of hemlocks, just the impact on the environment, the water retention, all those types of things are very problematic and can be pretty significant. And as well, just the approximate, 16 to 20 million tons of excess carbon dioxide regulated by these trees be emitted from Nova Scotia alone. So our hemlock stands in Nova Scotia are significant, and so the impact will be significant. So as I mentioned, I'm not a biologist, so I won't get too much into the exact details on the bug, but just there's a few photos of some of the stages. So the adult and just its sizing, so 3 millimeters, so it's a pretty tiny bug for the amount of damage that it can do. And obviously it lays the eggs, and that's kind of that woolly egg sac that you see, and that's kind of becomes quite visible, obviously, as you can see from the photos. So it is very easy to identify when it's at that stage. That just looks us a little bit of the biology side of things. This is a map, comes from the province, so you can see the hemlock distribution within the province, and so it's pretty heavy in the western end of the province. And you can see that the yellow area is the kind of quarantine zone that's set up right now, and so obviously, I know anytime you go to provincial parks, campgrounds, or federal parks, there's a lot of regulations around bringing in firewood, so people don't want wood traveling outside of your region, and so that's partly connected to HWA in trying to reduce the spread of it. So the next slide, so in terms of response, so the province of Nova Scotia is obviously, they're concerned about some crown land, and so they have some kind of high priority hemlock stands that they're looking after and are doing some work, but that's very, very targeted. And so it's up, if municipalities have parks or private landowners, obviously. I know we have some experience around wood lots around the table here. So private land, wood landowners, it's the responsibility for their own private lands. So there is a biological option in terms of introducing other species to fight HWA, and that's we'll use the nickname Larry, Larry is the bug that is a potential solution. And it's being tested right now. I know there's one site in Bridgewater where Larry was actually introduced. But the problem with Larry is that it's going to take significant time. So does Larry have the effect that we think it has? And then obviously it would take a significant amount of time for Larry to do his work in a large region. So in the meantime,
Is Larry native to Nova Scotia?
I don't. Do you guys happen to know that? I don't know. I'm not sure right off if Larry is native. We can. Do you know, Jody?
West Coast.
West Coast. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, Jody can speak more to the biology than I can for sure.
It looks like you were bothering me when I was walking through.
So the chemical treatment is the short-term solution, and so there's a couple of different options. There's a basal fart spray, which is sprayed at the base of the tree, and then the other option is the basal injection. And so the injection typically happens close to waterways. So obviously, when you're spraying chemicals, you don't want to have that go into the water system at all. So those are the two options there. And yeah, I've got to talk about this a little bit. Why our hemlocks can't wait for Larry is just the timeline that it would take for that to be an effective solution. And just because it's in that research and development phase right now, we don't know for certainty that would be a long-term permanent solution. So, and then there's a couple of notes there around the chemical treatment. So this obviously has all gone through kind of rigorous, typical process to have Health Canada approval. So what's being used right now has gone through that process and is being used in other areas. So that takes us to Chester. So just because this topic has come up, over the past 6 to 12 months in particular, around other tables, especially in recreation. So especially for folks, municipalities that own parks that have significant stands of hemlocks. If you all of a sudden know that in 10, 15 years, every one of those hemlock trees is going to be dead, that causes some concern for lots of different reasons. There's not kind of outlined in here, but if you think of, if you have a park that's highly used as trails, picnic areas, whatever, and then the trees are all dead. You need to do something about those trees. You either wait till they fall, which becomes somewhat of a safety concern, or then when they do fall, it's the cleanup and just the costing associated with that. So, it seems to be the interest on protecting the forest, save the trees on the front end, which also reduces that cost on the long term for having to do all that mitigation and cleanup on the other end. So we haven't done a lot, but Will and George had a little bit of time. So when they first started, that kind of get into programming and planning mode, and then they had a period where we have a potential for other projects before we roll into direct programming when our other high school students start on. So we had Will and George go out to our Gold River property because that was one that we've known just from kind of our new trails that are out there. We knew there was a significant number of hemlock on that property, and so we kind of sent them out there to do a little investigation. So they're gonna take from here, just talk a little bit about what they found.
Yeah, so kind of to give some more background of why we were doing this. So this is my 6th year working with the municipality, my 3rd year as the summer manager. I'm also at Acadia studying biology and environmental science, and this is a co-op work term for me, so studying this is helping me towards my degree. So I'm going to give another presentation on this in September to kind of show how I learned a lot during my co-op, so that's really exciting, so thanks for the opportunity. And I grew up in Sim Settlement, so everything here is important to me, and it was kind of a privilege to do this research with Will as well.
Yeah, and I'm Will. This is my third year as the assistant summer manager at the municipality. I'm also going to Acadia. I'm in my fourth year doing math and education, so I help with some of the statistical analysis when it came to this. So I also love the outdoors, obviously, working in this job, so it was a real pleasure to just be out in the woods for a week doing this. And just to see those photos, so that's me and George next to one of the biggest hemlocks we found. That's about a 55 to 60 centimeter diameter hemlock. And those big ones really take up a real big footprint. Beautiful to see. And on the top left there's actually 2 hemlocks growing out of a dead hemlock that we found. So it's just a great circle of life photo that we got.
So kind of to start this project, we worked closely with the IT department here to create an interactive map that we could take out into the field with us. So we had to make the map, of course, well not us, we didn't do the technical stuff, but we let them know what we needed on the app to collect our data. So when we would walk up to a hemlock and identify it, knowing the skills we had to identify these trees, first we put in the number because that was our goal, to count how many hemlocks are on the property. So that's where we see the number at the top. And then we also did an estimation of the height, and as well the DBH, which is the diameter of breast height, which we used with the measuring tape. That gives us a good scale of the size of the trees, the age, and a lot of other things. And we also had to identify if there was any evidence of HWA. To do that, we looked at all the low-hanging needles, and it was quite clear to see if there was evidence or not. And that's in the app where we could put no, there was no HWA, yes, we found it, or unclassified. And unclassified meant that the needles were too high and we couldn't see, and we weren't confident yes or no. That was the outline of the app that we worked with, and it went really well. It was a great system for us to use in the field.
And so this is kind of the layout of the route we took. So we would walk these lines. The GPS wasn't super accurate, so we actually just used a compass. So we would kind of line up to one of those dots. We would set what our angle was, and we would just walk that many paces to the next dot. So in total, what we would do is we would walk, and we would do 5 meters to the right or the left. So if there was a hemlock in our view, 5 meters each way, we would classify it. And we walked that whole length. We did it in about 5 days. And so in total, we did about 8.4% of the total property. So that lets us know with how many hemlocks we collected, we can kind of extrapolate that for a good estimation of how many would be on the total property.
So we personally surveyed 435 hemlock trees. And luckily, we found no evidence of HWA, which is really happy. We're really glad we found that. And using Will's data of the 8.4% that was surveyed, we know that there's approximately 5,224 hemlocks on the property, which is an insane amount. We did not expect this going into the project. We knew there was some there based off of just walking the trail and being familiar with the area. But to come away with that large of a number was really exciting. And I was pleasantly surprised.
I don't suppose if we put a sign up telling folks they weren't allowed.
I wish.
And just looking at a bit of the analysis, so this is kind of the distribution of the diameter of breast height. So this gives us the best estimation for the size and kind of the cost it would take. Special thing to note is that the trees that we classify that are under 10 centimeters, we wouldn't inoculate because those sizes aren't kind of up for inoculation, so it's just trees above 10 centimeters. So when we do our calculation for how much the cost will be, we gave about an estimation of 20 centimeters of diameter breast height, which is a good sized tree, and those are the ones that are especially when you're walking through the property, you would kind of notice as a grown-up hemlock.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
So just before I get into this slide, I just wanted you to know that this is an information report only today. We're not asking for any decisions. It's just to bring you up to date, make you aware of HWA in case you weren't aware initially, and then in the future we would know it would have to come back with a staff report if this is something that council would like to pursue. Then we would do that planning and so typically the The chemical treatments that we mentioned earlier typical happens in the midsummer. So if we were to decide that we want to do that, that we would do our planning over the fall, do some budgeting and prepare that for next year. So that's just so. But anyway, in the meantime, just to give it a little bit of a kind of order of magnitude, we thought we'd pull a few very rudimentary estimates together for you. And I guess, again, some of these numbers are based on some of the costing that the town of Bridgewater. So the town of Bridgewater definitely is kind of ahead of us in terms of their planning and the work that they've been doing. So this, some of the costing comes from some of the numbers that they've used today. So you can see, and as Will mentioned, so some of those smaller trees, less than 10 centimeters that don't not need to be inoculated. So just based on kind of rough calculations and based on what we know of where the water is, we did an estimate of the number of trees that were required to be done through the inoculation, and of course you can see the numbers there. So we're estimating about 200 trees, which would be around $1,600. And then the remaining trees that are not close to the water that we could use the basal spray would be about 4,800 trees at a cost of about $8,400. So just a little over $10,000. Of course, that doesn't include the other pieces of that, like if there are travel and some of the other costs that go with that, some of the training. And that's something that would have to come back in another report if this is a direction that we go. We can, there's lots of training courses, so you do have to take training if you're applying chemicals, so you have to do that, and so we would have to determine, is that something we'd like our staff to do, or would we just hire somebody to come in and do that for us?
How effective is the treatment?
So I don't know all those details. That would be something that we would have to look at, but I do think that it's and I'm sure if you guys or Jody, if you know the effective rate, I think it's. I don't know.
It has a time frame.
It does, yeah.
It's good for 5 years, it said.
Yeah, for the time period. I'm not sure, like for every tree you spray, I don't know if there is still some that would potentially still not survive, even though they have the treatment. I'm not sure of those numbers.
Yeah, Derek, you did.
I did, and I do. Is this, we're just dealing with municipal land?
Correct.
So we're dealing with the provincial crown land?
So that's up to the province, and from what we know today, the province is they're not dealing with every hemlock and every piece of crown land. They're just dealing with very specific hemlock stands that they're interested in protecting. But I don't know the details of the provincial plan on this, but I do know that they're obviously aware of it. They're the ones that are leading the study with the Larry, the bug. So they're obviously very well aware, but I don't know their exact plans for the entire province.
So this bug, I would assume, doesn't know this is municipal land.
No.
So they travel from crown land to our land, is that right?
And private, yeah, the bugs don't know boundaries, so they're just traveling.
Well, it's like the fish don't know the boundaries. I guess they almost waste their time unless everybody is doing it.
But no, so I think...
I don't mean, no, not wasting your time. That's not true. But I think to make it work, everybody has to partake in this, province and private, whatever.
That would be fantastic. In reality, I just don't think that's going to happen. So, even with our Gold River property, we could encourage our neighboring property owners to do the same, because obviously that hemlock stand is going to extend way beyond our municipal property. So, the only thing that we can do would be to do what we think is appropriate for our properties, and then we can educate and we can encourage others as well. And there could be some advocacy toward the province as well, for sure. But we definitely only have control over.
Just by way of information, which is totally no interest to you. When I was at Acadia, I was working on projects in Newfoundland dealing with the large sawfly and the spruce budworm. And but it was all province, all provincial. And we brought in, I didn't bring it, they brought in the shrew because it ate the large sawfly. Of course, they got overrun with the shrew. And then they had to find a way to control those.
Yeah.
That goes to your question. But the whole thing is not going to work big picture unless the province kicks in. But what we're doing, I think, is valuable. But with the inoculation, we can protect our own stands. Is that what you're?
Absolutely.
And protect the trees themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. I'm very interested in what you're doing. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Just on the next slide, so just to illustrate, so we mentioned several times down at Bridgewater, and I think just last night, actually, I think they held a public meeting just for more information, just to make the public aware. So they have a couple of parcels of parkland within the town that are used significantly by the public and which have significant hemlock stands within them. So they're doing work down at Kentville, their Gorge Park, which is kind of a lot of their mountain bike trails are in there. Now there's significant hemlock stands, so they're really, really concerned about that park and the future, and of course what would happen if they don't take some of these preventative steps. And then as well as HRM, just a note in there, they've requested a staff report, and so there's going to be a staff report coming forward with some type of recommendations in the next little while in the HRM as well. So there's a lot of municipalities that are aware of this and that are concerned and are hearing concerns from their public and are kind of doing similar, at a similar stage as us and trying to determine, what's the best next step. Do you just let nature take its course and see what happens, or do you do some preventative work? So.
Yes, Odell.
I'd just like to say, great. It was something I wasn't aware of. And I think the fact that it's a no-brainer for me, I mean, whether I'm here for next council or not, we'd be negligent as a council if we didn't pursue this. It's crazy. I mean, it's if you know something's going to happen and you have the tools to fix it, why wouldn't you? It's like we get presentations a lot, of things that we really have concerns about, but housing for one. We all talk about housing, and we'd like to see things, but we can't affect it really. In some way we can, but not really. But this we can affect. So for me, it's a no-brainer to fund this.
But they're not asking for money today.
I know they're not. I'd give it today if we did that.
Well, ask for money.
Thank you. Just to really repeat Douglas' comments there, I think it's being proactive. I think it's something that we do need to look at come budget discussion. For me, it's a no-brainer. I use those words as well. But I certainly enjoyed the presentation very much. I enjoyed reading about this coming in today. Just with my limited knowledge as well as a private woodland owner, and also family that does business on many other stands of wood, and we see it happening, of course, right? Right in front of us. So thank you. And I also picked up on the fact that you can use a compass. You don't need a
That's impressive what it was.
And I really do think that that's a wonderful thing to be able to say and to put into practice, because not everyone can. It's not as easy as when you're a kid and you think you can. It's not.
And I just forgot to mention, I love the fact that our staff did it, and this is helping you with your degree.
Yeah, I've learned so much.
Yeah.
Like I knew a little bit coming in as well, but really deep diving into it the way we did and being so deep in the woods for 5 days, it really gets to you.
Do you know where these bugs start from the top of the tree, bottom of the tree,
I'm not sure how George and Will probably know more about it than I do.
I would assume they start at the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, I would assume they kind of migrate up the tree.
Why? I was just asking because I know you can only observe from the bottom.
Yeah, sure.
Do you climb?
No, we don't. I mean, at the program sometimes we climb.
There may be more information available. There was a CBC documentary on this, and I forget the person's name. It was a woman that was doing a lot of study on it. Just look CBC documentaries. It was on Land and Sea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot.
There was a lot. Like she was doing a lot of study, and a lot of it was in New Germany area, and it was very helpful. Like good information, so you might want to.
Yeah, and there are a lot of other groups, so like the Mercy Tobiatic Research Institute are doing a lot of projects, and so there's several different groups that are involved. So one of the things seems to be a fairly positive response to this so far. So one of the other things that we would look at is, so we've only taken a look at our Gold River property, We have other properties that I don't think don't have the same significant hemlock stands, but like we would look at our Hahn property and a few other ones. So I guess the benefit to us is we're a little bit different, like some of the other municipalities have huge tracts of land and parkland that have hemlock, and it would be a much more significant project than it would be for us, but we would take at least do some preliminary research and just see what the other impact it would be on some of our other parklands in particular, but even other municipal properties that we might be concerned about.
I mean, if I was a private landowner, I mean, hemlock is worth a lot of money, I would expect, just of its features for being outside. It's not like pine or any kind of hardwood. I would say, Tina, you would know about that, right? You guys have hemlock on your property a lot?
So,
Yeah.
that's not top pricing, no.
It's not, no.
Yeah.
No, although I walk through the woods, you see hemlock stands at half a dozen trees every once in a while, but for the most part, it's not common.
No.
There's pockets. No pockets.
Amy, thank you very much for the presentation.
Yeah, of course, thank you.
All the best to you next year in your
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna get someone here now. Oh, council district grants. We have a list of them.
Yeah, so there were some additions to the list. So we've I know this is our last council meeting until later in September, so we had quite a few kind of last minute rolling in. So we have a total of 7 altogether. So hopefully council has all those items. So I'm not sure if you want to go through one at a time or do them as a group.
Somebody prepared to move, we approve them, or
So moved.
Second.
discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried.
Mine's in there, right? Mine's in there.
Okay, now I'm on to Public Works. As for archaeological witness for projects covered, New Ross, River, next, whatever.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
And now we have the 3 sidewalks and the Gold River Bridge in progress right now. They're all funded through ICIP as well as our own dollars. One of the requirements is to have those archaeological resource impact assessments done for each of these sites. The one in Gold River, there's an area of medium possibility, so we investigated that further, finished report. We submitted that in around November. And then the ones for the sidewalks were submitted in October. That range there, they came back with low possibility. So in all, we got approvals in December for a Gold River Bridge to proceed and February for the sidewalks. And then it's past the approval stage, but at June 27th, we got a request from KMKNO to have an archaeological expert on site for witness during construction. It's about $30,000 an estimate for the Gold River Bridge because they're only digging so much for the foundations. Sidewalks be quite another thing. That's about $180,000.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
We don't have to do it.
No.
We don't have to.
We're not required.
That's
No.
enormous amount.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what he's gonna do for $1,500 a day.
Just make sure there's nothing found, and if it is, alert
We
them.
probably could do that for a couple $100 a day. Anyway, that's another story, but I think it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I thought we'd bring it back, and Aaron had some nice, offerings out there, but I could see the bridge maybe, but it's up to council the decision.
Well, the bridge might make some possible sense to me.
Yeah, I can understand, because that's on reserve, basically there's a reserve there.
Yeah.
But I don't see doing the others.
Sidewalk?
Yeah.
I mean, because those are roads that are already disturbed, well, I mean, even Gold River Bridge, quite frankly,
Yeah.
has it been disturbed over time? Yeah.
So they have to do first grade to develop
Whatever was there,
Yeah.
I don't know what you'd have to find.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be sense of doing any of them personally.
Why would we do them if we don't have to? What's the reason?
Well, the request came in from KMKNO through CCTH.
Give me,
to municipal.
give me some words for those letters.
So,
So Cam, so the approvals, we submit the archaeological impact assessments to Communities, Culture and Heritage, and then they work with CAM-CANO, and I'm not sure what the acronym stands for, but
it's
they're
under
a team.
background here, but yeah.
They're a team that works on behalf of the Mi'kmaq community, and so they take their direction from the Assembly of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Chiefs, and that's an unincorporated association that consists of 11 Mi'kmaq chiefs across Nova Scotia, and they meet monthly to deliberate on issues common to governance for the Mi'kmaq in the province. And so both the Acadia and Spaganagity are part of the association, and so they have reviewed our applications. And so what happened was we submitted the archaeological impact assessments to them, or sorry, to the CCH. They submitted them to CAM-CANO, and no comments were received. CCH then approved our projects to move forward, and then following that approval from CCH, CAM-CANO went back to, or came forward with the request for archaeological witness on these 3 projects. So the request for the archaeological witness is coming directly from CAM-CANO as a representative on behalf of the Mi'kmaq community.
I see why you use the acronym.
yes, I, you
Gina?
know, with respect, I couldn't pronounce.
Oh, sorry.
So construction projects are construction projects. So is this only a requirement when it comes to the ICRP projects, and
Correct.
And why?
It's a federal requirement.
So it's coming federal, really?
The requirement for the impact assessments is coming from the federal government, yeah.
So it's federal, I just wanted to put, I'm getting my own mind in terms of, you know, where this is originating and how, where it's stemming from and so on.
It's part of reconciliation.
But no, it's ICRP.
Yeah, but it only applies to certain projects.
ICRP projects.
Yeah, that's right. Like the one in Chester Basin wasn't, we didn't have to do it.
So construction is construction, and
Yeah.
yet, it's only us, okay, no, I just wanted to be clear in my own head on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it depends on where you're getting the money from.
From what? I'm sorry, Andre, you were okay.
No, I'm still in thought.
Okay, I guess my biggest question is, if this is, and I'm sure it's a legitimate concern for KMG, I call it, whatever. But anyway, whatever the group is, and it's federally funded projects. I expect the federal government they should go after the federal government for this funding, in my view. I mean, it's hard to justify to average Joe taxpayer, you know, that
Just gonna sit there and watch.
we're gonna pay someone $1,500 a day so basically, if the backhoe's digging, how do they do that? Do they pick up through every shovel full of backhoe dirt? I don't understand how that works.
Oh, they would have the training, I guess, to say, okay, this, something looks out of context here or something, yeah, and I would have a look. Okay.
I think we would
That's just
stop
something.
anyway if we thought we had.
Yes, we would.
And that's one of the, yeah, that's one of the requirements, if we do notice something, then we gotta stop right away.
Well,
and
I think that would be normal for us
Yeah.
to make sure that it's not
Yeah.
Andre story.
I just, I understand this comes through some reconciliation policy that is like federal. What bothers me about this policy is that the average taxpayer, they're sort of unaware of this sort of revenue stream that exists to First Nation groups through this. I think that probably through our initial applications and approvals that we received, we've already paid for First Nations groups to review those applications, am I right?
No, the areas were conducted by Davis McIntyre and Associates. And then just the information submitted to Community Culture, Tourism and Heritage.
Well, we paid for the initial
Yes, that was part of the study.
But they were not paid to review those reports?
No, the First Nation groups were not that I know of, no.
But that is a common practice, though, I will say. And what bothers me about this is that, you know, I believe, like, I think on the surface, I think we can all recognize that when you're digging up the side of a roadbed, which is all like riprap and you know, surge and oversized materials that have been quarried and brought there to create that roadbed, that the likelihood of finding like archaeological items of interest are pretty low, obviously. And so this becomes sort of an zero, let's say. So this idea that they assessed this and they found that this would be something that they felt we should have oversight, it doesn't smell very good to me. And it bothers me further to my original commentary is that the average taxpayer isn't paying much attention to the details of our construction projects. And so they don't know that this funding is then being allocated to other groups for what really is pretty valueless effort. And I don't like that. If part of our federal policy is to provide funding for reparations or whatever for past injustice or whatever, then it should be upfront and in front of everybody rather than the sort of like behind closed doors sort of protection racket kind of setups. I don't like it, and so I'm not in favor of any of this, and there are already provincial regulation that prohibits us from disturbing archaeologically sensitive areas, so I think that we just continue on with the approvals we have in hand. I have a feeling that going forward that this may not become an option for us, that it will end up becoming mandated, and that bothers me as well.
You know, if we were digging up an undisturbed site that had we had some reason to believe may contain ancient material, then that'd be their story. But we're working on sites that are already have been disturbed heavily multiple times over the generations. Yeah. Anyway, so what do we want to do?
We had three options. We wanted to do nothing. I don't know if we need a motion to do nothing.
Yeah, you do, because I had to respond to them today with a petition.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve option 3, which says do nothing.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
One last thing, just anecdotally, I'm reminded of a recent project in Bridgewater where they were changing a sewer pipe from a 4-inch, I think it was or a water pipe from a 4-inch to an 8-inch. And they required such a big cost, and added an extra over $100,000 to do a review in changing a pipe.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of absurdity I think that we have to really start to push back against because it's illegitimate.
Yeah.
And so that's my final commentary.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks, Fred.
Okay, so I think I'm on to the new items that were added, and that would be Tina. You had a couple?
Oh, yeah, right. So 2 were, the first one was Voices and Choices. And I'm going back to when Brian had come in to do the request for a decision around the new bylaw, around the short-term rental stuff. And I believe I picked up on the engagement piece through Engage Chester. And my familiarity with Voices and Choices up to that point, and I hadn't been on our website to realize that up to that point. So I asked and was surprised. And the discussion, I just had the minutes so in front of me from that day. So she was not sure what Engage Chester was. And the Senior Economic Development Officer noted it is a new name of Voices and Choices. Councilor Connors was surprised at the terminology and is not okay with the name change, which sounds kind of harsh, but I guess in a nutshell that is. Several members of the committee, which would be us, felt it should say engage Chester Municipality. Because my point at that time, back on July the 4th, was that engage Chester really is not inclusive and doesn't do it for the rest of the municipality. So I was wondering how that was moving along, and I think I actually last evening went on, I don't know why my internet's not working that well, but I went on to the Voices and Choices, which is now the trigger button on the bottom of our page. I do see it back to Voices and Choices, but when it comes up there, and I don't know why it's not coming up there, as of last night anyway, there was a bubble that said, Engage Chester is the municipality's platform, blah, 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 blah. So that, I'm just wondering what the status of moving that forward, and maybe it's not the appetite of council to do that, and just kind of where we are in the process of seeing that happen. I have heard from only one person, and believe it or not, it was here in the village of Chester, just actually a couple streets from where I'm sitting now, somebody I've never heard from before, to say that they had agreed with my comments on that day, on July the 4th, that they felt, being respectful of the entire municipality. So here it is here, it came up. Engage Chester is the municipality of Chester's public engagement platform. Here you will find information on projects, big and small, register to leave your feedback, ask a question, or sign up for emails. I'm not being critical about how this is happening at all, because I love it. I love Voices and Choices since I started here with, or since Voices and Choices was introduced around the high-speed internet piece, the municipal plan review. It's really worked wonders, but I don't think that we are doing the entire municipality a great service by calling what was Voices and Choices to now Engage Chester.
So you just would like to engage Chester Municipality?
Either that or back to Voices and Choices. I'm not sure why we switched it.
Yeah, why do it staff have to speak?
Yeah, so Jen's here as well, so she can speak to it.
Sure.
So part of the change was made because of our branding. So our brand is Municipality of Chester, not Chester Municipality, the opposite way, right? But more than that, it was to align with the other sites we have, which are Invest Chester, Tourism Chester,
And Chester.
and Chester.ca. So all of our websites that we have.
And Chester Choir.
And Chester Choir, yeah. They're all, it was done to be consistent with those. So if we would do this, if we go with Engage Chester Municipality, the question I think we would have would be, do we change the rest of them or do we be consistent?
Which would entail what?
And so part of it is just the brand that we started to build is why it was done.
So what would that entail, changing that?
Check and speak to some of it, yeah.
It would entail purchasing URL address for every single one of our website presences. So that would be 4. And actually 5, because Voices and Choices would be included in that. So in order to roll that out, because it's consistently been Chester.ca as primary, and then the secondary ones have been Chester.ca, we would have to also purchase the existing one, which is what we had to do for Voices and Choices too. So we have 2, no matter what you type in, it will lead you to that site in the end. So that would be 8 web hosting fees. And then it would take time, whatever time it would take us. So the status, speaking to that, to your question, just the time.
And then changing our marketing as well.
And changing our
members. So everything that says Chester.ca now would become ChesterMunicipality.ca.
Yeah.
And you type in, eventually it would all switch over to ChesterMunicipality.ca.
Yeah, so when we did, because we also received public input on Voices and Choices, and the inability to find it organically. So that's when some staff had some discussion around changing the name of it, because Voices and Choices is not something that you would inherently think of if you hadn't seen it advertised. Yeah, so one of the suggestions was to follow Engage Modal. Without going into great detail, if you replace MODL with MODC and you're pronouncing it Engage Modal,
I'm not the only one whose mind would arrive in a certain location. So, Engage MOC was an option that we gave staff, because when we first brought Bang the Table online, we provided an intro to staff and can you come up with a name and what do you think it should be called, and we received submissions and we put out the ones that we received to be voted on by staff. So we did the exact same thing this time. And the first two options were around MOC. And I think MOC Talk, and there was another MOC option, I can't remember what it was. And then Engage Chester, which followed in line with Engage Modal, but also Engage or Invest Chester, Chester.ca, Tourism Chester, Chester Fire, everything had the shortened. So that was that. But from a communications and marketing point of view, because I am communications officer, but I also do image building, marketing, graphic design, all of it, because I'm one person. Just the notion of a shortened, catchy, easily marketed term is just easier from that perspective, and it's consistent. So that was the basis for it.
Okay.
Maybe a suggestion is just to change the voices and choices one and leave the rest the same.
Well, then you get into the inconsistency, and that's not, it's not unheard of. We have just our primary and our secondary, subsidiary websites. That was just the gist of it. It's just easier and it's more easily recognizable.
Yeah, for the user experience, memorability, and marketing.
Yeah, it's sort of like when I say that I represent Chester Basin and I don't say Chester Grant, Low Grant Road, whatever.
I made that mistake and got reprimanded for not mentioning beach.
Well, yeah. When you're marketing yourself, it's awful. It's hard for me to say Chester Base, Chester Grant, Low Grant Road, this or that. Where we're going,
It depends on the purpose. If you're away, people ask where I'm from, I'm gonna say Chester.
Yeah, even.
Because they wouldn't know when I say Woods of Road, they'll think it's in the woods somewhere, right, Andre?
You wouldn't want to mislead them.
No, you wouldn't.
So, I'm proud of the municipality of Chester, and I'm proud of Chester, just like I'm proud of Aspetall Loop, Mill Cove, Chester Grant, East River, and so on. But to be sure, I've never said that I'm from Chester. Just as a conversation piece.
You would say you, Ross, because that's quite recognizable.
So, I'm from Chester municipality, and broken down within that is
Your website to say that.
all of our communities. So, again, I will just repeat myself as I did on July the 4th, and that'll be the end of it. Depending on, of course, where we go today. But for a matter of record, and for the respect to my communities, from one end of the entire to the other of the entire municipality, I guess using that word, I'm just as one person not okay with the name change and where we've gone. I believe it was a number of years ago when Marshall Hector was back for a 2-year term. He and I were the only two at that time, at that historic vote, that didn't vote for Tourism Chester. We pleaded and asked for at least Tourism Chester Municipality or Municipality of Chester. So I'm just making it clear to the people that I represent, and I represent the entire municipality, that I'm not okay with the direction this is going. And I, for one, absolutely respect the work that Jennifer does here and the entirety of everything that's, again, on your desk. That can't just be on the corner of your desk, right? Everything. So, just as a matter of record, representing the entire municipality. Those are my words for public record, live stream, and in the minutes.
Anyone else? Any comments on that issue?
I agree with Lena.
Let's do one more comment. You mentioned Modal. Well, of course, it's municipality district. We're technically not MOC, we're MOPC.
That's right, but we adopted the brand mark of MOC.
No, I'm saying legally, they're not there, as a brand.
Yeah.
But we're forgetting that we're a district, because technically the village is also a municipality of Chester.
Yeah.
In the sense that the village is a municipality.
Yes.
We're a municipality.
Yes.
You know, so I just think one of the accurately worded, we are the district of Chester.
The municipality of the district of Chester.
Exactly.
And that's what it says on legal
Like
documents.
Mahone Bay is a municipality, but it's a town, so we're the district of Chester. And we use that shorthand, I understand from a marketing point of view. But I don't think we should lose sight of the fact that we want to be very all-encompassing. We are the district of Chester. That's more fun.
Yeah, Andre?
One of the things that sets us apart from the district of Lunenburg, aside from many philosophical things, is that we actually have a nucleus. Like, they don't really have like a center community. And you know, I know that there's sometimes like some sort of weird family that we sort of love each other and sometimes we hate each other. We have like weird rivalries that exist between our individual communities, and you know, tales from long ago when people used to get in pickup trucks and go fight with neighboring communities and stuff. You know, that happened. And but you know, realistically, I'm okay with it as it is. I mean, I doesn't need to say something that includes Blandford or whatever. To me, I know you don't, but to me, I can recognize that realistically, this is like the solar system, and realistically, Chester is the sun, and we have beautiful planets that revolve around it. But realistically, that is the center of this municipality, and that's why it has been always called the municipality, the district of Chester, and we've shortened it down to Chester, and I'm okay with that. I accept that, and most of our amenities are found in this village. And not to say that others aren't more self-sufficient than others, like New Ross, for example. But, I'm okay with it as is. I accept it.
Great. Okay, you're on to, curbside rental, or curbside pickup.
Oh, sorry, yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
curbside pickup.
Okay, yeah, no, I was trying to
Curbside.
I'll do a clip from the live stream, if there's a clip of it, right? Curbside giveaway. We talked about that, Councilor Dino brought that up a few months ago. I should have looked that reference up too in terms of our minutes, I apologize. Yeah, and just wondering where we might be with that.
I don't know, I think we were gonna get somebody that.
I'll get some stuff online, go man, come get it tonight if you
I
want.
don't think there was a rush, we kind of just talked to the GEs about it and
Or something.
different things.
It sounded like it was more of a communications thing. We just had to organize it and advertise it, and people could put their junk out on a certain.
Yeah, somebody just had to sort of what that meant to us.
Yeah, I think it got lost with staffing changes, so we just need to follow up, so I'll follow up with Fred and.
I don't even know that GEs need to be involved.
No, I don't know, I didn't
It's just like you drive the stuff to the end of your driveway, and if it goes away, good.
Yeah, so what day of the week we do it, and how we separate it.
If the same use the example of ladder, I think, that he put out, I think, and so on.
There are people that do go around.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, you know,
There's not everything had withdrawn, but
That's right.
I would like to see that though, especially in the, near the end of the summer or something would be good.
trying to get it back on our list of things to do. Okay, Floyd, building permits.
Yeah, I received several comments recently, for building permits. And in order to get a building permit, you need you need a PID, Department of Highways, by the way, and I think septic approval. But in my area, there's houses being built where there's no property. They have a PID number, but there's no property, and it's become a concern. So my question is, when you get a building permit, you actually have to have a piece of property that would a house would sit on.
We do identify, so when somebody comes in, they give us the address, the assessment account, or the PID. If they're not sure of any of that, we look up by name, and we assign it to that. We do have the option currently, or some of our practice, that if they're doing a subdivision that would not impact the ability to build, it may be a different PID when they start, and we update it as the subdivision gets finished. But it's always tagged for property owner before we issue.
We have quite a few properties in home. The Highway 329 and the head solid water. And people have a PID number. Between the high water mark and the highway, it might be some cases 10 or 20 feet up there building homes there. It's a concern, and I think it's something we have to look at, that someone would actually go out and say, well, yeah, there's not property there. Do we have, I don't know if we need to identify how much property we need, but there's no property, but they're building homes. There's one across from the church down home right now, across one breakwater. There's 2 pieces for sale, 135,000 each straight across from the church there. And I don't believe there'd be 10 feet of property. So I guess I'm raising it because I think we need to, I know we need to change some guidelines, some rules. We need a certain size piece of property to build a home. We need to do something. Because I don't think it's proper that we can build a home with just a number. And they're building on high water and they're building on the highway, but no one's checking it.
Just to refresh my memory, does the building permit process not require some sort of rudimentary site plan?
We require a site plan, so there's 2 sides in here. So building code is all about the safety of that structure. Please note, I'm not your building inspector, so this is a massive agreement, so.
Well, that's the structure itself now.
Yeah, the structure itself, limiting distance to fire spread, that's kind of what they look at. Floyd, I think to your point, you're really looking for land use control. So a lot of your area, those land for areas, general basic, we have 0 setback under the land use bylaw, so they may not even require a development permit. Yeah, Fox Point's very mild as well, they have very small setbacks.
We are some.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, if we don't have something, I guess I'm bringing that up because I'd like to see something put in place that people can't just go and build a home with a number and no property. Or a piece of property that's 10 feet wide. It's a concern, and I think someone needs to go look at least when they put in for these permits. That's a problem, and I'm getting calls about it because people across the road are saying, how can someone build over there? I'll give you an example. Across Point Beach is where I have recently. Talking itself. Well, I think there's about 20 feet on end there. The first thing someone's going to build a house there. Shouldn't be there.
Gotta get the septic room first, perhaps.
You told me you could put a septic system on the stand, so they got that from you, no problem.
And that's essentially, in most of our municipal zones under the land use bylaw, we don't have in a lot areas, to your point particularly for building a structure, we don't have any setbacks currently to the salt water side, so we're waiting for the province to come forward. So that ordinary high water mark is treated no different than a property line right now. So that's why they're getting development.
So maybe you can give some more, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I know that I have a wharf that I didn't even, maybe, I can't remember if I did the only permit or didn't, but I don't even own land, I just have a permit from the feds and the province to build the structure.
I guess when I get asked a question, it's hard to answer, and I do think it's wrong, and I don't know how someone can convince me it's right, that you can put in and build a home.
Is it a home?
Because I can show you all kinds of them. And there's more being sold. There's one just down past the sailing club, they just cleared the property across the road, and that little subdivision up there, there's no property there. They cleared it and told the neighbors they're gonna build a home there.
Well, if they're building a home, they must have some kind of septic or water or something.
You need to put a septic
Holding
system
tank
on
is
it.
suitable.
Well, they do, well, they can put a tank in to pump up, that's still approved, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's various ways.
I just said, to make sure I'd like to know, if we can have staff look into it. I think we need something, that you need a piece of property to build a home on. I think it's ridiculous that you can build a house with no property.
Okay, well, just tell us what the regulations, what we have options are, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, so much for coastal protection too, if they're that close to the water.
They're on the water.
They're on the water.
Okay, people, that's the end of this agenda. Do you want to move right into, yeah, you should, move right into Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
And going camera.
And no, we can't.
No, now.
Yeah.